When I was in my early 20s, I opened my first business. In today's episode of the I Can't See You podcast, my guest is in her early 20s. She's opened her first business, but it's not renting videotapes, it's selling coffee. And she's blind.
From Studio C, welcome to the I Can't See You podcast with David. He can't see, but he's got a lot to say and a face for radio.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 74 of the I Can't See You podcast. My name is David, at David Benj on all the socials. I really appreciate you joining me for today's episode. And we've got a couple of great guests lined up, and we'll get to them in a second. But I do want to mention, if you have an idea for an upcoming episode, or you know someone who may be a great guest, please reach out. You can also leave your questions and comments for me. That's area code 646-926-6350. And you have up to 3 minutes if you've got a question or a comment about a previous show. Anything you want to say, please leave a message there. Again, up to 3 minutes. I'll most likely use it on an upcoming episode if you give me a call and let me know. Again, 646-926-6350. You can also email me at ican'tseeyouPodcast@gmail.com. Remember, I can't see you sounds like a whole sentence, but it's only 7 letters long. ICANTCU podcast@gmail.com. So ican'tseeyouPodcast@gmail.com. Now, coming up, I've got a couple of guests that I first learned of about a year ago from my favorite podcast on blindness called Blind Abilities. And if you are blind or visually impaired, do check out the Blind Abilities podcast. They've got a lot of great episodes. They come out with 2 or 3 usually per week. And I love that Blind Tech show. Again, great stuff. And I first heard my guests from today on one of their episodes. It was about a year ago, like I said, and they were talking about social media, and I got a little nervous because after I got done, I went and I checked to make sure they had White Cane Coffee on all the formats, on Twitter, on Instagram. I know they had it on YouTube. I know they had it on Facebook because that's what they were talking about. And it always makes me nervous when a company or an individual that I want to see succeed mentions one aspect of social and not some of the others, like Instagram. And I went to Instagram and I saw that the handle was available and I grabbed it for them. And I figured, you know what, I'll get it and I'll contact them. And I used the contact form on whitecanecoffee.com. And we started an exchange. And again, I had also signed up to be an affiliate because they had mentioned that on the podcast episode. So yes, if you have any interest in buying White Cane Coffee, you can easily get to it just by going to ican'tseeyou.com/coffee. And again, once you type that into your address bar, you will be whisked away almost seamlessly to the White Cane Coffee Company website. And there you can check out all their different varieties of coffee, and I'm sure they're going to mention some of them in the interview coming up. But I really wanted to make sure that they had the social handle for their business. Again, I can't stand to see that one of my favorite radio personalities is one thing on Twitter and another thing on Instagram, and it just makes it so much easier when you can say, at David Benj on all the socials. So whether you go to Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or Twitter, you're all the same thing. And if you're thinking about starting any kind of company or website, please, before you pick the domain name, check the domain name and then go to all the different socials and make sure you can get that. Now, one thing I don't have, and this is going to make Jane cringe, one thing I don't have is David Benj on TikTok. I don't believe I have that. I'm going to investigate further. But I know Jane will cringe when she even thinks that I may start something on TikTok. But we'll see. So without further ado, let's get to our guests. They've been waiting patiently to come on. I want to welcome to the I Can't See You podcast from White Cane Coffee Company, Erin and Bob Willman. Guys, thanks for coming on today's episode.
Glad to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Erin, why don't you tell us how you got started with White Cane Coffee? What was the inspiration or the catalyst for it?
Well, it all actually started on me having a very bad day. I was just frustrated and annoyed at the fact that I could not get gainful employment due to my disability. Anytime I would go to a job interview, they would tell me I am not capable for the job due to my blindness. And so I was frustrated, and a lot of times when I'm frustrated like that, me and my dad will bounce ideas off of each other. And one idea that had come up was a coffee company where you hire disabled people, because coffee is sort of that universal uniter. And we kept bouncing this idea around for a couple days until eventually we started setting things up, and it's just like, oh wait, are we actually doing this?
But yeah, because her frustration was, and she'd always said, when I go in these job interviews, all they see is my white cane. They didn't see her. They didn't see her skill set. Their main focus was on that she was blind, and employers, they always say, oh, we're equal opportunity. They're not. And so, we figured, hey, if you can't find a job, make a job.
And if all they were going to see is my white cane, fine. Every morning, you're going to see what my white cane can do.
Right. And that's, it's funny that you mentioned coffee being the uniter. We were coming back from visiting my daughter Jane in New York, and we had stopped at a rest stop along the New Jersey Turnpike, and it was pretty packed, and you hear every language under the sun being spoken in that line, and there's old folks and young folks and every race. I'm sure most continents were represented. And I said to my wife, I said, this is how you solve any kind of problem in the world. Everybody is here. Everyone is here. It doesn't matter where you're from. Now, obviously, at some points, especially with Starbucks, price might come into it. But for the most part, everybody was there to have some sort of coffee or tea or something like that. And I mentioned it to a friend a couple days later, and he agreed. And it is just kind of funny. And I also get your point with. And I've told a friend who's in HR that if I were to go out, first of all, I'm 55 years old, so that's one strike against me. Forget the fact that I can't see. Maybe they're saying that they're not going to hire me because they don't want to hire me because I'm blind. They're going to look at me and some other guy and say, okay, blind guy, sighted guy. I always think that that is the strike. They might say that it's something else. But I believe that would be the case. And
yeah.
And I know my friend Alex listens, and and I know he's shaking his head right now as he's listening to this. So
it's sort of like when I had a walker in middle school. Like, you're gonna get picked last in dodgeball.
Right. I mean, and look, I know, and don't get me wrong. Things take me longer to do things. It's tasks take me longer, and my blind friends and I always complain about that because it just takes longer. It's frustrating, but we can still get the job done. Might not be cost effective in some things, but in other things, it might not play that big of a role. And and I think it's great that you started your own business. For the most part, I've had over the course of my lifetime, most of the jobs I've had have been businesses that I owned. And, and that might be a fault because I started out as a kid. I opened my first business when I was 21. And, I had that for 13 or 14 years. And, now I don't know, even because of that, maybe, I've never really taken direction from anyone. I thought, okay, this is what you need to do. And so you go and do it. You don't have to go to a board. You don't have to go to a boss. And it's kind of gotten me in trouble. I live in a condominium complex now, and I'm the president of the condo board. And I saw a problem that I thought, okay, this has to be addressed. I addressed it. And at the next board meeting, we talked about it. And one of the guys says, I don't remember voting on that. And I'm like, ooh, we didn't. How about it? And, and that's, and it just takes, my main thing, and I'm sure yours as well, you want to be independent as a blind person. You want to rely on people as little as possible. And when you have your own business, you rely on yourself and your family, and your staff. And sometimes the staff is, can be the tricky part. Um, you want to rely on them. So once you decided you were going to open it, did you figure you were going to open a shop, or did you figure online first? How did that all transpire?
We were originally going to be strictly online
Okay.
until it came to a point where we were sort of outselling our own expectations, and we had a dining room just filled to the brim with coffee. And so then we decided, yeah, we should probably have a storefront. And from there, we did it. We took steps to make everything more accessible. Like there is Braille on all of our packaging. There's like for our own employees, we make things so it's very easy for them to do, because when you're disabled, everyone and will tell you all of the things you can't do, and that's frustrating. And we already know what we can't do, so we sort of get that out of the way. Just like, okay, what can you do? What are you good at? Here's how we're going to make that work.
Right. And that is the key thing. And that's, sighted folks and even sighted friends, will look at me and say, they'll say, oh, I have to do this. And I'm like, oh, I could do that for you. And, oh, you can? And they're amazed. Or, and then they might tell you, well, this is how I do it. And my wife and I do this all the time with the way we do certain things. And sometimes I don't think it's a, sighted and blind thing. I think it's a man woman thing, or it's just another way of doing it. And my whole life, I know that's where, look, if you can't do it one way, if somebody who's sighted says this is how you have to do it to get to here, but you find a different way that's easier and more comfortable or whatever, but you still get from A to B, you're good to go. And that's all it takes, I think.
And that was a big thing with even the layout of the shop. Everything is laid out very specifically so that, it's funny when people come in and Erin shows them around the shop and where everything is, they're like, are you sure she's blind? It's like, no, she knows where everything is. Everything is in its place. Nothing changes. Like even on the shelves, it goes from the dark roast to the lightest roast. The K cups are on here, the whole beans here. Everything's within its very specific place. Plus, like I said, there's Braille on everything, so she can get around. Our machinery all is designed with different sounds and different tones to let the employees know when they're filling up the K cups, is it the right amount of coffee in each K cup? Okay. It's a different sound tone. So all they have to do is listen. It's got eyes and little scene electronic eyes. So when they put their fingers by something, it lets them know, and it's a texture thing.
Okay.
So when they touch the machine, they are going to feel the eye, and when their finger goes past, then it's going to release the coffee into the cup. It lets them know where it's going to be at.
Okay.
It is sort of amazing how many strangers, family members, and friends will constantly forget I'm blind.
My mom, who obviously knew me my whole life, would point to something and say, could you hand me that right over there? And I'm like, what do you want, Mom? And she's like, right over there, it's on the shelf. I'm like, and she might not remember, she died around 6 months ago, but,
I'm
she
sorry
might have
for your
forgotten.
loss.
Thanks. She might have forgotten what the item was called. And, so I would walk over and I'd feel for the shelf, and then I'd just start putting my hands on things until I got to the thing she needed. And again, or she'd point up to, oh, look at that plane up there. I'm like, where?
Oh, we do that to Erin all the time. We're like, we're heading somewhere. It's like, oh, just over there, Erin, and she's like, stop, because
just like we're at a crossroads and just like, okay, you need to turn that way. You got to give me a little bit more to work with here, left or right.
Right. That's
I was we don't do that on purpose.
If you don't have a sense of humor about all of this,
right.
The other left, Erin.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. As a kid, I had even up till a few years ago, just difficulty. The vision, the little bit of vision that I do have is in my left eye. So if somebody said, "Put out your right hand," I put both hands out, and the one that I could see, I knew was the wrong one, and I'd put it down and then put out my right hand or whatever. Talking about that, it's right there behind you. I went to Podfest Expo, which is a podcasting event. It's in Orlando. It's held every March. It was right before everything became locked down, and I flew home on a plane that had a guy that was coughing like you wouldn't believe. So I was terrified for for the next couple of weeks. But there, I met a guy named Max, and he's known as the Blind Blogger. And so the two of us roomed together. And at one point, Max had a meeting with someone about a LinkedIn seminar. I wasn't going to it, but once I get the layout of a place, like you were saying about the shop, I feel pretty comfortable finding it. So we needed to find this room, and I went over to the bell stand and I said, could you tell me where room 176 is? And the girl says, yes, just take that elevator over there up to the 21st floor and blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, were you pointing to where you wanted us to go? And she said, yes. I said, all right, well, tell me where you were pointing. And she said, okay, oh, I'm sorry, it's the elevators. If you just turned around, it's directly behind you and walk over there. And, sure enough, we get on the elevators and then the elevator buttons are split. The lower floors are on the side Max was on. The upper floors were on the side I was on. He's like, I don't feel 21 on here. And I started feeling the buttons and I found 21, so I hit it. But then when we got off the elevator, all the signs were non-tactile. So I had to take my phone out and I pulled up Seeing AI or Envision or whatever and use that. And a lady happened to be walking by us. She's like, what are you looking for? And I said, well, we're looking for the LinkedIn seminar. Oh, I'm going there too. You guys can come with me. So we followed this woman and, I got Max to his place and then I went back downstairs. And funny enough, I got off the elevator and there was another woman asking where this room was. And I overheard that. And, again, Max and I were the only two blind folks at this thing. And I said, oh, are you going to the LinkedIn thing? And the lady's like, yeah. I said, all right, get on the elevator, go up to 21, walk straight down the hallway. It's past the second intersection of the room. It's on your left. And she's like, no, there was no 21. I said, the button's on the left-hand side of the elevator. And then I, used my cane and I'm walking away and I'm thinking, oh, I wonder what they were thinking, how I knew so specifically to get there. And, and that's, the tagline for my show is blind people for dummies, because people just, you think you understand. Some folks think they understand how it is to not see, but then they'll say, yeah, it's right over there. The bathroom's right down the hall. Yeah, which hall, where I am. And
doctors' offices are the worst. The nurse will go, oh, just follow me. And and it's like, and
it's just this room over here. Just like, thanks. Right. That's not helpful at all.
Right.
But even like you said on how things need to have like more braille and such, like on how on none of the walls had any tactile signs. I will walk with my brother before this whole lockdown thing started. We would go to the library to get there because they had special like board game nights that I would participate in. And I had mentioned to one of the people who work at the library, just like, you would be amazed how many braille signs are just wrong. Like, I cannot tell you how many women's restroom signs I've gone up to that say Roman. The next month there was that board game night. So I had to go to the bathroom. They changed all the braille on the bathrooms.
That is hysterical. That is great. So I've often wondered, again, because I have a little bit of vision, I often wondered, I know it's one of your competitors, and I don't know how many Starbucks are in Warren, but I often wondered, how could someone with little to no vision work behind the counter there? Again, specifically for how you guys were saying everything is always in the same spot. I have trouble here when somebody moves the blueberries from one side of the top shelf to the other, because I'm not, I'm reaching in for blueberries. I don't know if I'm getting them or blackberries or whatever. So, with the 18 million syrups that they have, somebody might want vanilla syrup. I don't know if I put that in or caramel or, and how that would work.
We kept it simple. We have we use let's say we go to the fair or something. we'll have 9 different air pots, and each one is, once again, in its specific place, from dark roast all the way to the breakfast blend and everything in between. So we know which ones are those. Now, on the pumps, when you pump it one time, that is exactly 10 ounces of coffee. So she only has to pump it one time, and she knows she has the right amount. Now, so what we have is our blends of coffee. Now, you get cream, you get sugar. Like one you and I discussed earlier. You want all the fancy stuffs with a half twist, latte, whatever.
You've come to the wrong place.
You've come to the wrong place.
We provide coffee that you would have at home, but it much better, I suppose. Because we completely believe that when you have your cup of coffee, you know exactly how you like your cup of coffee. Do you like it with cream? Do you like it with sugar? Aces, you know how to do that.
Right.
So here's where that is. Here's where this is. And even when we set up our air pots, the first thing I do when I'm on site is, all right, we're going to do like sort of a the first shelf is sort of A1 and through A4. Next shelf is like B1 to B4. So just like, all right, just
and that never changes, so it's duplicatable. If anybody ever said they wanted to open up a White Cane Coffee in Philadelphia,
Gotcha.
duplicate it out so it's made to be user friendly on both sides of the counter.
Gotcha.
Not only for the customer, but for the employee. Keep it simple. Is sometimes I think that's what drives everybody nuts, is when you go into Starbucks, the lines, all the way out the door. There's a reason for it, because the orders become so complex.
Right.
Half the people in there just go, I just want a cup of coffee.
I was with someone. We were going to, I guess, probably not far from you. We were going to an event in Johnstown 6 or 8 months ago, and he was. I said to him, I said, I have some free stars expiring. Do you want coffee from Starbucks, Jim? And he's like, yeah, okay. And I said, well, go ahead and order. And he's like, well, I want a cup of coffee, to the girl. And he's like, and she started rattling off all these things. He's like, I don't know any of those things. What's a normal cup of coffee? When somebody wants a cup of coffee, what do they order? And she said to him, and I don't remember what it was. And and I said, he'll take a big one. And
we're the same way. When people come in here, like I said, as we expand and get into different sizes, and that, do you want small, medium, or large? Let's keep this thing simple, not grande, venti, whatever.
Right.
Do you want cream and do you want sugar? That's the way it's. Keep it as simple as possible, because that's usually what we have found. 90% of the people who come into the shop go, I just want a really good cup of coffee. And that's why they come here, because they don't have to play the secret code handshake,
Yeah, the only questions we'll really ask you are, do you want it light or dark roast? Do you want cream or sugar? That's it.
Right. That's funny. That's and I know, Bob, you had mentioned before we started recording, when someone comes into your place to get just a cup of coffee, you'd mentioned where the proceeds go. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. Okay. When people come in and they order a cup of coffee, 100% of the proceeds, we're not talking the profit, we're talking 100% of the total sale goes to the Leader Dog program out of Erie, Pennsylvania. They have a young dog they're training up there, and Erin has that part going directly to support this dog, because let's face it, it needs fed, it needs training, it needs vet bills, it needs a lot. And this is her way of giving back to the community.
Now, I will clarify something, because people will make this misconception all the time. When I'm donating to this dog, people think I'm donating this dog to my future dog. This dog is not for me. I am allergic. But I know there's going to be someone out there who will need a dog to help them get around and have that mobility and freedom to do things. So
this dog is going to change someone's life.
Yeah, I'm amazed at some of the things that I've seen dogs do. In Washington, a little over a year ago, for Washington seminar, where we go to Capitol Hill and lobby congressmen and senators. with the NFB, we walked into this one building and, there's, I don't know, 6 or 8 of us standing around and we're like, do you know where the elevator is? No, I don't know. I've never been in here before. It was actually my first time doing it. And one of the girls who had a dog with her said, oh, the dog will find it. And she says to the dog, whatever the dog's name was, find the elevator. Dog took us to the elevator and we got on the elevator and went to wherever we needed to. And I'm always amazed at that. I see dogs and I just I don't have a dog myself, and I don't know that I would ever get one because, like the dog, I always want to play. And I know that would probably spell doom for both of us out in public when we were out and about walking around. So I don't know how. And I talked to someone at length who, you said you had an allergy with dogs. I don't remember if his dog was a standard poodle or a labradoodle or something like a golden doodle. I don't remember what kind of. This dog is just great, and I love the dog. And I when he sits near me at events, I always think, "Come here, buddy. Come here. Come on over." And sometimes he'll walk over to me. I don't know if it's because I'm looking at him, but he will come over and he'll nudge my arm, and I'll start petting him. And the guy's wife will get up and come and get the dog because she has sight and knows where the dog has wandered off to, and knows now to look for me because that's usually where the dog will be. So it's just kind of funny, about the dogs. And he was talking. His wife, the sighted one, is allergic, and that's why he had to get that kind of dog. So that's something to keep in mind if you ever want to do that again. I, I would love to have a dog, but again, more to play with and throw a ball to or whatever than to lead me to the CVS.
And our whole thing is we know who's going to end up taking care of this dog, and it's not Erin. So I know how this is going to turn around,
Plus, even like you said, with playing with dogs, I had to teach myself at a very young age, even before I lost my vision, I had to realize if there was a dog in a vest, I'm just like, all right, you have to treat that dog like it's a businessman.
Right. I haven't learned to do that yet.
Can't just go up to a businessman and mess with his day. No, he's on job.
That's funny. Why don't you tell us, so you have the coffee and again, your primary business is the bulk coffee, meaning the pounds and 2-pound bags. How many different varieties do you have, and how do you source it and do the roasting and things like that?
Man, where do we start with this? Well, we started with like 6 blends, and we're up to 8 now?
We have nine regular blends, and then we're not even getting into the flavored coffees yet. We're not even
counting the flavored, because we have our seasonal ones, which are all out right now, I believe. We have, I believe, 8 still for normal flavored, both in regular and decaf. It's a lot.
Yeah, okay. I think if you go on the website, that we probably have 60 to 90 different products, whether it be K-Cup, whether it be 1 pound, 2 pound cold brew, which is something new that we've just recently come out with, to make it very user friendly.
Okay.
That was one of the best innovative ideas we've come up with, other than Erin putting Braille on everything. But with the cold brew, once again, we try to design everything to make it user-friendly for the blind and visually impaired community.
Like, even when we made the cold brew, we had saw that the instructions to make the cold brew, there was no way that we would be able to get it all in Braille on the box. So what we did was we set up a QR code so it would lead you to a YouTube video link, so it will walk you through with audioly.
Oh, that's a great idea. Wow. So when you get the coffee, is it just one kind and then you roast it to the different degrees? How does that work?
Not quite, no.
Okay.
Our coffee is sourced from all over the world.
Okay.
Depending on what we need, whether it's Brazil or Ethiopian, Sumatra, Colombian, pretty much all over the world. Now, there are specifications on our coffee that's Erin was very insistent on. It had to be organic. It had to be fair trade, because we're not going to have children working down there in some foreign country picking coffee for our company.
Okay.
on slave labor. That's unacceptable. And so these were parameters that were put in place. And then the quality of the bean. There's probably, and I mean, not being trying to be facetious, there is literally only a handful of companies in the United States that buys the quality of beans that Erin has sourced for our company.
Okay.
Is, when they talk about the 1%, that is what she buys, the top 1% of the beans that come in off the ships.
Because if we were going to do this, we were going to do it with right. No, I mean, we could sell craft coffee, but what would be the point in that? And that just proves to everyone else that a disabled company isn't as good. Well, I don't want to be the best disabled company. I want to be the best company, period.
Right, and that's a great thing to strive for. So then you roast it. Do you roast it in the shop? Is that where you do the roasting?
No, and it's only due to zoning laws.
Okay.
No, but we have a roaster that is just outside of our local town. So
then we bring it to the shop, do all our packaging, grinding, do everything there. But to roast it due to zoning and all the grief that would be, we do it just literally outside of the city limits.
Gotcha. Okay. And on the website, I did notice some of the flavors, the caramel, vanilla, and things like that. How do you make that? How does that I'm just curious, and I'm not sure you guys could even answer, but how do you make that? How do you get that flavor infused into the coffee?
Okay, once again, it's
unless it's a secret.
There is a process, but the key is, once again, finding organically sourced flavorings, and then everything's a recipe. Our coffee, which blends we're going to mix so that the coffee doesn't overbear the flavoring, and vice versa. You have to play a dance when you're doing the flavorings.
Okay.
You still want that nice creamy caramel flavoring, but you still want the coffee there also. So it really is. There's a lot of more science involved in coffee than I think a lot of people realize.
Okay.
Because people go, "Oh, can't anybody roast?" No. We got fortunate that we did hook up with two master roasters who, right from the very beginning, said, "Okay, we're involved in this. This is a project we can get behind," and they work with us and they do everything. And like I said, and they're really in the background. They're what help us.
And best yet, they're air roasters, which means we won't have any burnt beans like you would get at, say, Starbucks or some of these other coffee chains, because when you air roast, you can turn off that heat very quickly and cool it very quickly. So this way it doesn't burn. You don't get that bitter aftertaste.
Gotcha.
Everything's very smooth.
Okay. And as far as your staff there, how many folks work in the store, and do they also take part in the shipping of the stuff and packaging that, or is it different areas?
We have about 8 employees, and yes, everyone sort of has their own specific jobs.
Okay.
And yes, they take place in packaging, in making the K-cups and boxing and
grinding, and just, I mean, the whole process basically from when it's roasted to out the door. So, and we do try to rotate the employees, like I said, so that we can find where their strengths are and try to keep that. And so they're also not bored.
Gotcha.
There's nothing worse than doing the same job over and over again for the next 30, 40 years. So we do try to keep it, and always a perpetual training in new ways of doing things, and listening to employees, because we find out they know what works.
Right.
And how can we make the job easier for them? We never wanted to be say, well, this is the way we do it. We wanted to be sitting and say, what can we do to make it work for you?
Yeah, we will adapt your workspace to whatever you need to make it easier for you to do things. And that takes a lot of the stress off of other people. And so that seems to work best for us.
And productivity then goes up. Because if you're not frustrated, you're not dreading coming to work or just sitting there trying to figure out. Now, we also have an extensive break room for a lot of the employees, because some of the employees have autism or other developmental disabilities. And if they start to become overloaded or stressed, then we have a break room that has, I mean, all the streaming TV shows. They have Nintendos in there. We have things like that. So we keep an eye out. And if also we notice the frustration levels getting a little high, it's time to take a break.
Gotcha. Okay. That's
go and regroup.
Okay. And I'm guessing there's coffee in there as well.
There's coffee. That never ends.
Sir, from opening to closing, someone has a cup of coffee.
That's funny. Is there anything else that I may have left out that you want to add before we wrap things up?
I mean, one of the big things is, people say, how can they get involved with us? Well, go on whitecanecoffee.com. Order. If you're having difficulty with the website, then give us a call and we'll walk you through it. I mean, this is what it's all about is the customer interaction. We want customers to enjoy our product. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're pretty much anywhere. You Google White Cane Coffee, you're gonna.
Yeah, we're on Twitter, we're on Tumblr. Our main place is Facebook. So if you want to get to know a little bit more about us or just get more involved in the community, that is where, or even just want to talk to us and have a little bit more information, that's probably the best place to go is White Cane Coffee on Facebook.
Gotcha.
And there's ways, like I said, we had discussed before the podcast, of ways that people can become involved and work almost as an affiliate. Like say you're in an apartment building and there's 50, 60 apartments or more, I guess, in some of them in New York City. I mean, they're huge. And just because they're in quarantine or in stay home mode doesn't mean they can't have a good cup of coffee. So one person gets together, goes around and gets an order. It's a way to still communicate with their neighbors and all order the coffee. We ship to one person. And if they set themselves up an affiliate link, you know what? They make a few dollars for their time and effort also.
What is the, if you just go to whitecanecoffee.com/affiliate, would that get you to the affiliate area? Okay. Okay. And I should mention that, I am an affiliate of White Cane Coffee, just so anyone knows. I'm in the process of putting ads on my, at ican'tseeyou.com, and that is one of the ads that I'll have. And that was another thing that you had talked about, the, ordering, because, again, I'm in a building here, there's only, 75 units, but in that situation and people not wanting to go out, everybody can get their order. It doesn't take much to get to, you get 5 or so pounds of coffee and I think you're there, and you get the free freight and everybody gets the coffee they want and they don't have to go out and get it, which is a great thing. All right, Erin and Bob, I really appreciate you joining me today on the I Can't See You podcast, and good luck. And I hope you guys get the shop back open. I know you said you're delivering in Warren and everywhere else via UPS. I'm guessing, yes.
Postal, UPS, whoever's shipping. Like I said, most of the stuff we ship priority mail because we do want your coffee to your door within 1 to 2 days.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, Erin and Bob, I really appreciate it. Again, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us, and stay safe out there.
Thanks, Erin. You too. And again, Erin and Bob, thanks again for coming on today's episode. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate what you're trying to do with hiring disabled folks. And I just can't imagine in this state of Pennsylvania, there are folks, because of a provision in the Sherman Act from back in the 1930s, there are folks who are disabled who are earning $1.10 per hour, working a 40-hour work week. What can you do with that? I just can't believe it. Now, there is something pending in Congress, and we know how things go in Congress, but there is something pending. It is called the Transformation to Competitive Employment Act. In the House, it's H.R. 873. In the Senate, it's S-260. I know in Pennsylvania, Senator Bob Casey has been a sponsor of that bill. And it will sunset the provision in the Sherman Act that allows for employers to pay less than a minimum wage. And I just can't imagine that. And the advantage of these people, that they get taken advantage of just to have a job, but what are they earning? They're not earning anything. And it is just unreal to me. So, if you feel the same about that, please call your congressmen and your senators. And again, 873, it's H.R. 873 in the House, S-260 in the Senate. Transformation to Competitive Employment is the name of the bill. And again, Bob and Erin, thanks for coming on today's episode, and thanks for the delicious coffee. If you want to check out White Cane Coffee, you can certainly go to whitecanecoffee.com, or you can help me out by using my affiliate link. And again, there'll be links in the show notes using my affiliate link. But if you're just on the internet and you want to type into your web browser of choice, you can just go to ican'tseeyou.com/coffee. And again, I can't see you. It sounds like a sentence, but it's only 7 letters long. ican'tseeyou.com/coffee. ican'tseeyou.com/coffee will take you there. And if your organization wants to try and earn a little bit of money, or if you're a big organization, you can earn a lot of money by becoming an affiliate for White Cane Coffee. Go to whitecanecoffee.com/affiliate, and you can sign up there, and you do get a percentage of the sales when you make a sale using your link, just like I'm using my link today. And again, there'll be links on my website at ican'tseeyou.com, as well as just typing in your web browser, like I said, ican'tseeyou.com/coffee. And sign up, become an affiliate. I mentioned it to Harriet, who is the president of the Keystone chapter, and we may sign up to try and earn a little bit of money. It is certainly a lot easier selling coffee over M&Ms, as we talked about in the interview. And I always thought it was kind of funny. I know we had to raise money, a certain way, but one of our biggest fundraisers throughout the year is selling M&Ms and Skittles and things like that, especially at different events. Now, with the lockdown, it's hard to sell stuff because we're not going anywhere. But it's tough enough, you're handling the white cane in one hand and you're expecting to carry a case or two of M&Ms or a mixed case of, half plain, half peanut, and maybe a box of Skittles. It becomes an issue, to me at least, to load all that stuff into a backpack or a bag and then still using the white cane in the other hand. And this would be a lot easier for an organization to raise some money. So again, check them out, whitecanecoffee.com and or whitecanecoffee.com/affiliate if you want to become an affiliate with them. And it will help them out. It will help your organization out. And it would be a good thing. So again, thanks to Erin and Bob for coming on today. And I also want to thank you for listening. Again, without you checking in every week and listening to each episode, I'd be nowhere. And I do love doing this podcast, as I've mentioned, both here and on my social feeds. Again, at David Benj across the board, except for TikTok. Jane cringes again. But without you guys listening, I'd have nothing. It'd basically be just me talking and nothing else going on. But again, thanks for listening to episode 74 of the I Can't See You podcast. My name is David, at David Benj on all the socials. Please stay safe out there. Continue to wash your hands. And I will catch you on the next episode. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the I Can't See You podcast. Follow David on Twitter. He is at David Benj.